Welcome to section 4 of our growth and development series. In this section, we are going to be talking about behaviorist and social learning theories. Okay, now these theories focus on observable behavior, meaning what people do, not what they're thinking or feeling internally. Behaviorists believed behavior is learned through experience, reinforcement, and consequences. This is very relevant in nursing because so much of what we do involves changing behavior, medication adherence, lifestyle changes, smoking cessation, and patient education. Okay, right off the bat, a HESI tip for you. If a question is about behavior change, rewards, punishment, or conditioning, think behaviorism. Let's start with Ivan Pavlov. Now, Pavlov discovered classical conditioning. This happens when a neutral stimulus becomes associated with an automatic response. His famous experiment involves dogs that began to salivate when they heard a bell. Not because they were hungry, but because the bell had been repeatedly paired with food. So if the response on a question is automatic or not a question, I apologize, in the patient is automatic or involuntary, so think like salivation, nausea, fear, that's classical conditioning. In healthcare, classical conditioning explains why some patients feel anxious or nauseated just walking into a hospital. You ever heard of white coat syndrome? This is it. The environment becomes associated with past negative experiences. Now, understanding this helps us respond with empathy instead of frustration. Now, John Watson took behaviorism even further. He believed behavior is entirely learned from the environment. Watson famously said that with complete control of the environment, he could train any child to become any type of adult. Now, while we know this idea is extreme, it emphasized the powerful role of environment in shaping behavior. So, if you see anything about Watson, think environment shapes behavior. Okay, now, last on this slide is B.F. Skinner, who developed operant conditioning, which is probably the most tested behaviorist concept in nursing exams. Operant conditioning is about how consequences influence behavior. Behaviors followed by reinforcement are more likely to continue, while behaviors followed by punishment are less likely to continue. Think about potty training a toddler. If the toddler goes number 1 in the potty, they get 1 M&M. If the toddler goes number 2 in the potty, well, then they get 2 M&Ms. That is positive reinforcement, which is exactly what was studied by B.F. Skinner. Okay, now let's make this really clear. Reinforcement increases behavior. Punishment decreases behavior. Now, reinforcement can be positive, like praise or rewards, or reinforcement can also be negative, like removing an unpleasant stimulus. Negative reinforcement is not punishment. I'm going to repeat. Negative reinforcement is not punishment. It's a very common exam trap. Okay, we're still trying to increase behavior, but we're doing it by taking something away. Okay, now I'm repeating it again. Negative reinforcement is removing something unpleasant to increase behavior. Now, in nursing, we use operant conditioning all the time. Praising a patient for using their incentive spirometer correctly is positive reinforcement. Reducing supervision once a patient demonstrates safe behavior is negative reinforcement. Education and encouragement are far more effective than punishment when trying to change behavior. Now, let's talk about social learning theory, which bridges behaviorism and cognitive theory. This theory says people can learn by observing others, not just by direct experience. Albert Bandura showed that people, especially children, learn behaviors by watching others. His famous Bobo doll experiment showed that children who watched adults behave aggressively were more likely to imitate that behavior. Bandura also introduced the concept of self-efficacy, which means believing in your ability to succeed. So if learning occurs by watching, modeling, or imitation, I want you to think Bandura. Now, looping back to that self-efficacy is huge in healthcare. Patients who believe they can manage their condition are more likely to follow treatment plans, more likely to make lifestyle changes, and more likely to advocate for themselves. Our jobs as nurses is to build confidence through education, demonstration, and support. Understanding these theories helps us explain why behavior change is hard and how to support it. We don't just tell patients what to do. We model behaviors, we reinforce success, and we build confidence over time. That is effective nursing care. So your high yield takeaways for this section. When you think Pavlov, think automatic responses. Skinner is reinforcement and punishment. Now, reinforcement, again, increases behavior, even if it's negative reinforcement. When you think Bandura, think learning by observation. And remember that self-efficacy is the confidence to succeed. All right, that wraps up section 4. Okay, we're flying right through it. So next section, section 5, we will be looking at moral development and self-concept. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.